Fuel subsidies, price caps, and emergency commodity releases are just some of the measures the governments from Asia to Europe have taken to protect consumers from rising fuel and food prices because of the conflict in the Middle East, which has caused a halt to a fifth of world oil and gas supplies. It has also forced the top energy producers, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, Iraq, and Qatar, to reduce their output. This is what the IEA has called the biggest disruption to global energy supply ever. And everyone's comparing this to 72, 73. But I think it's actually going to be worse. Brent crude, the benchmark international contract, settled at $102.90 per barrel on Friday. This is a 42% rise since the start of the U.S. and Israeli strikes against Iran in February. As a temporary solution to the shortage, the IEA has coordinated the largest ever release of oil from its emergency stockpiles. The U.S. also eased sanctions on Russian oil exports. The countries that are most dependent on imported energy face soaring fuel prices and shortages as a result of the disruption of shipping through the strait. Iran has attacked several ships, aiming to undermine U.S. military strength. And let's see, some of this I already said. The central question is for how long can importers sustain fuel supplies before shortages worsen? South Korean officials have said that they may consider providing extra energy vouchers to vulnerable households in the event of rising fuel prices pushing up electricity bills. If LNG supplies to the Middle East are disrupted, the government will also prepare contingency plans for boosting nuclear and coal-fired energy generation. To prevent food inflation from being fueled by rising energy prices, governments are taking steps to limit the impact. In Egypt, the government has capped the prices for unsubsidized bakery bread due to rising transport and fuel costs. Price increases are politically sensitive in a country that is one of the largest importers of wheat. This came up when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2020. What year was that? 2022? It's all a blur. That it was going to impact Egypt specifically. I don't know how bad it got, but this, I think, is worse. China has also taken action due to concerns about rising farm costs. Fertilizers from the National Reserve will be released ahead of spring planting season in order to stabilize prices and provide farmers with adequate supplies. In Asia and Europe, governments are stepping in directly to the energy market to protect households from rising costs. The Philippines has said that it would regulate electricity rates as soon as next Monday, while increasing coal-fired power generation to offset soaring LNG prices. I guess clean coal for the win or something, or dirty coal, I don't know. The benchmark LNG prices in Northeast Asia dropped this week from 3-year highs. However, they remain well above the levels before the start of the war. Authorities in India urge consumers not to rush to buy liquefied gas cylinders, instead encouraging them to switch to piped natural gas to relieve the pressure on supply. India imported about 60% of the cooking gas it consumed last year, and around 90% of these imports came from the Middle East. Dutch benchmark gas prices are now around 50% higher than they were before World War II. I don't know where that came from. The EC has said that it is preparing guidelines that will allow for more flexibility in the enforcement of certain import rules. World War II? We're still stuck on that. This is to avoid delaying shipments necessary to stabilize supply during crises. The move, according to diplomats, could be beneficial for imports of Azerbaijani pipeline gas that reaches Europe via the Southern Gas Corridor. I am still waiting for the Southern Gas Corridor to be shut off. I might be wrong, and I will be very grateful if I am wrong, but right now I'm still a little bit concerned about that. Many governments also use fiscal tools and subsidies to control rising prices. Malaysia's government announced that it would increase its spending on petrol subsidies to $510 million in order to maintain the price of the mid-range fuel that they use. Authorities in Ethiopia also increased their fuel subsidies sharply to cushion consumers. European governments are also considering tax measures. Australia announced that it would release petrol, diesel, and fuel quality standards temporarily to increase the available supply. This is especially important in rural areas where there are shortages. Brazil has reduced diesel taxes and imposed an export levy to stabilize domestic fuel prices. And there was another number I wanted to do, speaking of Australia, which was, let's see. Now I'm having computer issues. Australia has enough petrol now for 18 days, diesel for only 16 days, and jet fuel for 14 days. So they are probably going to get locked down pretty soon, or at least some kind of a soft lockdown.